The 2019 NASCAR Cup Series rules package was announced today, so let's talk about it. How's it going, everybody? My name is Eric, and welcome to Out of the Groove. I was hoping to have a different episode up today, but I guess we'll have to wait for tomorrow for that. There's a lot of fun stuff in that episode, so I hope you guys will enjoy it. I'm excited for it, but I had to make this video here this afternoon because earlier today, the 2019 NASCAR Cup Series rules package was announced. This has been a hot topic of conversation all season long. From the start of the season, people were unhappy with the current product and were more vocal about it than in recent years. So then NASCAR experimented with the All-Star race where they put restrictor plates on an intermediate track, and the opinions after that were kind of varied. A lot of fans thought the race was great. A lot of fans thought the race was good, but didn't like that they had to use restrictor plates and didn't want that going forward. NASCAR took a little bit from both these camps, it sounds like, and over the summer we continued to hear rumors, and eventually we actually had a leaked proposal from NASCAR that suggested they were going to run some variant of that package for a significant part of next year. And those rumors kept burning up, creating a bigger and bigger firestorm until today, NASCAR officially released the 2019 rules package, and sure enough, it's very similar to a lot of those leaked reports we'd heard the last few months. There's a lot of details in this report. I'm not going to scrutinize every single one too much. You can read the report for yourselves, but I'm going to hit the highlights for y'all. The 2019 rules package will look like this. A new radiator pan on the front of the car, a 2-inch splitter overhang, which is slightly different than they have now. Aero ducts will now be on the front of the car, much like we saw in the All-Star race. And the spoiler will be raised up to 8 inches tall. But the biggest change arguably comes with the engine itself, where NASCAR announced they will be using a new tapered spacer on the majority of tracks next year. Basically for any intermediate track that's like 1.5 miles or to 2 miles long, basically for every single one of those tracks, NASCAR will be using a smaller tapered spacer, which will allow less air into the engine and will ultimately reduce horsepower. All those other things I talked about, fans I think are mostly agreed upon. Most people like the aero ducts, the big spoiler which adds downforce, most people are okay with, at least that's the vibe I'm getting. And personally I'm okay with it too. But the big thing that everyone's divided on is the use of a tapered spacer. The rumor for a while, especially after the All-Star race, was that NASCAR was going to use restrictor plates at basically every track next year. Those rumors were quickly kind of squashed, but people still continue to talk about them. I mentioned this last week. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a tapered spacer, which will limit the horsepower from typically most races this year were at about 750 horsepower in the Cup Series. The tapered spacer will limit it down to about 550 next year. That sounds like a big decrease, and I guess it is substantial, but when you compare it to what we ran in the All-Star race earlier this year, that All-Star race package that had a restrictor plate, horsepower on that was only 400. So we've kind of split the middle, it sounds like, with this tapered spacer idea. We're not getting the full 750 that we've had this year, but we're also not going to decrease it all the way down to 400 like it was for the All-Star race. We're going to put it right there in the middle for us. So that's a major change. I'll talk about more in a second, but it's worth noting that that's only really going to be seen on most 1.5 to 2 mile racetracks. They were quick to mention that road courses and short tracks would still be run with the same kind of tapered spacer they have now. So really don't expect too big of a difference in how the cars drive at Bristol or Martinsville or Watkins Glen. It's going to be about the same as it is this year. One other detail that I think is worth mentioning is that other than the Daytona 500, which will be running a basically similar package to what we ran this year, the other 3 restrictor plate races, traditional restrictor plate races, will not actually have restrictor plates next year. No, NASCAR believes that with the current tapered spacer that they're planning to use for next year, that the horsepower and the car's speeds will be limited enough that they aren't going to need to use restrictor plates at Daytona or Talladega, aside from the Daytona 500. So isn't that funny? All year long, everyone's been worried about, they're going to put restrictor plates at every track. They actually took restrictor plates away. I think that's funny anyway. Vice President of Competition Steve O'Donnell, he's in charge of this kind of thing. He made a lot of interesting comments. He was basically held a press conference with NASCAR media folks during this announcement, and he said some interesting things that I want to go over and give you my thoughts on. The first thing he led off by saying is that this whole package, the goal of this package, is to produce closer, more side-by-side type racing. He shot down the rumor that NASCAR just wants every race to become pack racing, which both of those sound really good when he says them, but is it entirely true? Probably not. Yes, while the tapered spacer isn't going to slow the cars down as much as the restrictor plate did at the All-Star race this year, the cars are still going to end up being on throttle a lot more than usual, which is going to ultimately result in a more bunched up field, which is going to feel a little bit like pack racing. It's not going to be a big pack. You're not going to have 3 wide all the way through the field or anything like that. It's not going to look like Daytona, but there is going to be drafting at play. That's going to be important. He's not wrong. The racing will be a lot closer. I don't think it'll be easy for cars at intermediate tracks to drive away to a 2 to 3 second lead. I think everyone's going to be pretty close, and drafting will be important. But is it going to be like a full-on pack race? No, probably not, at least at most of these intermediate tracks that they're using this package at. So he's not wrong, but I thought his comments were interesting there. O'Donnell also confirmed something that he had mentioned on Twitter and I talked about, that this is basically a placeholder until the Gen 7 car is introduced in the next 3 to 4 years. He didn't give any indication as to what the Gen 7 car is going to look like. Is it going to look kind of like this package? Is it going to be something completely new? I tend to think it's going to look a little bit newer. It's going to be maybe a combination of this package and last year or this year's package. But it's, he did say that the Gen 7 car is coming, and he doesn't intend on this, tapered spacer, altered all-star race package to be a long-term deal. The key emphasis he kept saying is that he wants to give the drivers more control over the car, and he thought that by, adding the tapered spacer, which reduced a little bit of horsepower, and by adding downforce, he believes that this is possible, and, I guess realistically he's not wrong. The drivers are definitely going to have more control over the cars, but it's probably mostly just because the cars are going to be a little easier to drive, probably. But still, those are O'Donnell's comments. Those are the ones that I found most interesting. I encourage you guys to go look up the reports for yourself, because maybe you'll find stuff in there that is more interesting to you than I thought it was. I'll talk a tiny bit more about this at the very end, but, some people want to know the why. Why is NASCAR making this decision? Why are we lowering the horsepower, not just changing the cars? That's one thing NASCAR fans love about NASCAR is that the horsepower is big and fast and gnarly. Makes these cars cool, makes these cars sexy. So why are we limiting that? Why are we taking that away? And one thing that NASCAR is quick to point out was that the reason potentially for them limiting the horsepower from 750 down to only about 550 this year has to do with attracting new manufacturers into the sport. According to NASCAR, during their conversations with engine manufacturers, engine builders and stuff like that from teams, they didn't like that they had to pay so much money to create 750 horsepower engines. Apparently that is not cost effective, and that's very expensive for a lot of these manufacturers, and it was kind of a turnoff for any new manufacturers wanting to come into the sport. It sounds like it's a lot more affordable to build 550 horsepower engines as opposed to 750 horsepower, and NASCAR's hoping that will lower costs for teams and will also lower costs for potentially new manufacturers to want to dive in and invest in the sport. Ford, Chevy, and Toyota are doing a great job funding NASCAR and supporting NASCAR, but NASCAR definitely would like more manufacturers to come in, because more manufacturers means more money and it means more competition. So that's a good thing all around. At the end of the day, this new aero package is really only going to change the racing at about 17 out of 36 races next year, which I know is basically almost half, and obviously that is a significant number of races. It's mostly going to be affecting the intermediate tracks, the Chicagolands, the Las Vegases. Those type of tracks are where we're really going to see a different type of racing than we've seen this year or the last few years. NASCAR noted that the taper spacer could be altered from track to track to limit or add more horsepower from track to track. It's also worth noting that they mentioned both Pocono races, both Atlanta races, and then Darlington and Homestead will still feature the tapered spacer, but they will not have the aero duct, so I thought that was interesting. Pocono's kind of just a different animal all on its own. I guess Darlington, Atlanta, Homestead all kind of have in common the fact that they're older track surfaces, so that's probably has something to do with the decision. Not exactly sure how it's going to change the racing, compared to other intermediate tracks next year, but that is worth noting that they added that detail in there. So I said I was going to talk about the why. Why is NASCAR choosing now to make these decisions? And I'm going to give you my opinion at least. Not everyone's going to completely agree with me, but I think this is what NASCAR's thinking when they're making this choice. You look at the last few years, TV ratings have been, declining considerably. NASCAR needs to do something to spice it up. If you're NASCAR, you look at, how Daytona and Talladega, which are, restrictor plate, big packs, big spectacle racing, those are consistently the highest rated and the most well-attended races on your schedule, year in, year out. Those races really haven't seen that big a dip the last few years, versus, the Atlantas, the Texases, the Martinsvilles. Those have seen more significant dips in viewership. NASCAR's heard the fans complain about the current aero package, where dirty air is a big issue. Cars, are so aero sensitive, so aero dependent that the drivers really can't drive. They can't really race each other. They're racing the cars more than anything. And so like I said last week, I do applaud NASCAR for making this decision. I think this is the best choice for the future of the sport. Because like I said a minute ago, this is only going to affect maybe half the races next year, primarily the ones at intermediate tracks. And I'm just going to, let out a pretty poorly known secret here, but very few people look forward to intermediate track races. I never get excited when NASCAR's going to Kentucky one weekend. I'm not oh my gosh, we're at Kansas this weekend, I gotta watch that. Indianapolis this Sunday, cancel all my plans, Deborah, I gotta watch that race. Unless you live near one of these tracks, I live near Texas. It's the only track anywhere close to where I live right now, so I do get excited for Texas, even though it's an intermediate track, and I'll be honest, the racing there is usually not that good, but I do get excited for that one just because I'm planning to attend that race. But if you don't live near one of these tracks, be honest with yourself. Do you ever get excited for Chicagoland? I know Chicagoland had a pretty good race this year. I'll give them credit for that. But most years, no. Nobody's excited for Chicagoland. It's just another race to kind of flip through. So I applaud NASCAR for making a change. We've talked about how NASCAR's in a box. They can't really make any super drastic changes for the next couple of years, at least not until the Gen 7 or until the schedules. Contracts end with tracks and they can change the schedule. So for the next couple of years, NASCAR's in limbo. The fans aren't happy. They need to make a change, but they're really in a box. Their hands are tied. They really can't make that many big changes. But I applaud them for trying something regardless. Will this package make those intermediate track races more entertaining next year? I think they will, but I don't know that for a fact. They might not. Obviously, some fans are going to be really against the idea and it's going to be really difficult to win them over, but I think there's a lot of fans, and this is what I hope from a lot of you guys. I hope there's a lot of fans out there that are at least open to this idea. They're at least open to giving it a shot. Go watch Atlanta next season, or Las Vegas, or Auto Club at the beginning of the year, and at least watch those first before you form a super strong opinion where you basically quit on NASCAR entirely. I said this last week. NASCAR desperately needs to set itself apart from other motorsports. Like, what's NASCAR's thing? NASCAR's the one big motorsport where you can bump each other a little bit. You can race in a big pack. Not saying that's what every race needs to be, and I don't believe that, but I think a little bit more of that is fine. Like I said earlier, and the numbers don't lie, Daytona and Talladega are always the most popular races. I'm not saying every single race needs to be like that, of course, but as far as, making this kind of be like a placeholder going into, the Gen 7 era in a few years, I'm okay with NASCAR trying it. I'm glad that they're at least experimenting. And who knows, maybe, the casual fan who's watched his football team get blown out on Sunday starts getting bored, maybe he starts flipping through the channel, he stops on NBC or Fox, and he starts seeing some of these cars race in a pack. He sees this close racing. He doesn't flip over and see Kyle Busch 10 seconds ahead. He's just flipping through and sees, a side-by-side battle for the lead. He might watch, and maybe they'll hook him in for the long term. I think that's what NASCAR is hoping for, and I know people hate it when people around NASCAR say that they need to go after the casual fan. Anytime NASCAR does something to try and cater to the casual fan, people groan. And I don't blame them, but at some point, NASCAR does have to appeal to people that aren't interested in NASCAR. Again, the numbers don't lie. NASCAR's fan base is aging quicker than most other sports fans, which means they are losing more old fans than they are gaining new ones, and at some point NASCAR's gonna have to change something they're doing right now to try and get some more new fans coming into their sport. At some point they're gonna have to try that, and I'm glad that they're doing it next year. This is a perfect opportunity for them to do it. You've just lost 3 or 4 of your most popular drivers. Ratings are kind of down. They really, at this point, what do you have to lose? Go ahead and give it a shot. I don't know if it'll be successful. I don't know if it'll end up being a good thing for the sport. It could end up hurting it more than it helps it. I'm optimistic that it'll be somewhat beneficial the next few years. I just hope that, longtime fans like you guys or, hardcore fans at least give it a fair shot. They don't just, never watch. They unsubscribe from NBC and Fox after this announcement just for the sake of it. I hope that they at least watch, the first few races next year with this package. And maybe it'll surprise them, maybe it won't. Time will tell, but I'm optimistic, and I hope most fans can at least approach it with an open mind in this case. But anyway, yeah, those are basically my thoughts on the topic. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think down below, and hopefully you made it to the end of this video. If you're watching this right now, I appreciate you guys listening to the whole thing. Hopefully you haven't already left a bunch of blazing comments down below, but if you have, I guess it is what it is. People are passionate about this issue. Anyway, hopefully you heard what I had to say. I'll be curious to know what you guys had to say, so leave your comments down below. You can tweet at me, follow me on Twitter. You can also follow me on Instagram, or you can sponsor the show directly, like these amazing Patreon sponsors right here. You can check out the top link down below. I really appreciate it. For only $5 a month, you can have your name featured on every single episode, as well as get some access to behind-the-scenes posts and other things along those lines. So thank you guys so much. Hope you enjoyed this video. I got another big episode coming tomorrow with a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. We're going to talk more about the Roval, talk about some other news around the racing world. So tomorrow's going to be a really fun episode. Hope you guys are looking forward to that. But yeah, anyway, I guess I'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching, everyone.